There's a massive fuel crisis in the United Kingdom.
A fuel shortage.
Residents in London had to wait 4 hours to refuel their cars.
So you're after a car, what's good on fuel? Cheap on tax, cheap on insurance. Welcome to the Vauxhall Viva. 1 litre automatic. The fuel crisis has hit everyone hard, and that's why cars like this are holding the value, and it makes sense to drive something like this what actually does do 72 to the gallon. It costs £20 a year to tax, and insurance is pennies. Now let's get into this review and have a look at the engine. So the engine is a 1 litre 3-cylinder and it produces 75 horsepower. And believe it or not, it actually does do 72 to gallon on motorway. It's tiny. In fact, to put it into comparison, the displacement of this engine is 2 bottles of Pepsi. Coke is also available. The gearbox in this is actually a manual gearbox. It's got a robot on top here what controls the clutch and the gear selection. It's hydraulically primed, so when you do start it up or when you unlock the car, you'll hear a screeching noise going, which can get a bit annoying. Another thing, can you notice something's missing? They've integrated the exhaust manifold into the cylinder head, which saves space, I suppose, but exhaust manifolds used to crack. I wonder if it's going to affect this over time. Now inside, it's actually quite roomy. You'd be surprised how roomy it is, and the visibility is very good. Seats are comfy, and this is quite a decent spec. It's actually got Bluetooth phone. It's got OnStar, which I'll get into that in a minute, aircon, steering wheel controls for your cruise control, volume controls, menu buttons, and it is quite a nice laid out cockpit, should we say. Gear sticks here, and obviously you've got your buttons and stuff like that around here. Now this has active steering, so when you're in a car park, it'll just be really light. And as you gather speed, it'll get slightly heavier because you don't want to be driving a car at 70 and steering wheel being so light, it'd just be weird. It has actually got city mode as well, which lightens the steering wheel up, so your steering goes really light, very easy spot. You can actually use your little finger. It's got an auto dimming mirror. There is an issue with this car with the build quality. It's actually built quite well, but it's the materials they've actually used. I'll show you. The materials they've used is of like the lowest quality plastics I've ever seen. I mean, the plastics scratch so easy. It's a bit of a joke, really. So other than that, it's not actually that bad in here. Stereo's easy to use. It hasn't got a CD player because who has CDs anymore? We just stream stuff off Spotify or off YouTube Music. It looks premium, but again, like I said, the materials aren't the best, but it does look premium. With the steering wheel, everything's to hand nicely. Very easy car to drive. If you are new to this channel, please like and subscribe. I do honest reviews where if manufacturers give me a car, I won't butter the bad stuff up and not tell you. I will tell you. Now let's talk about boot space. Is the boot big? It is a small car. It is actually adequate for the amount of shopping you do. In fact, I'm fat. can't fit my body all the way in. Now, oh God, fat people shouldn't do this. But it is adequate for your shopping. You can fit a pram in or a buggy. That's about it. Then you don't have no room for your shopping. But it's a small car, so who cares? If you want a big car, buy an estate. The turning circle in this thing, it is absolutely astonishing. It's so easy to park. Like literally, you wouldn't need parking sensors. It is that easy to park. It's actually pretty decent. You can turn round on a penny, pretty much. I mean, that's taking it to extreme, but you could. Just look at this turning circle. Literally, it's unreal. It just turns round, it just keeps on going. And I'm in such a small space, really. That's why it's really good for like supermarket car parks or round town. You can bomb round town in this little 75 horsepower, 1 litre 3-cylinder, and I mean, I bomb about in this thing, and I'm getting 48.9 gallon. And I am bombing about, zipping here, there, and everywhere. Absolutely brilliant. Now, what's not to like? It does do 72 to gallon. I have had 72 out of it to the gallon. Bombing round town, I'm getting currently 48.9 miles per gallon. They've actually put a tiny tank on it. 23 litres, and even in fuel crisis prices, it costs £51 to fill from empty. You can't get no more in. 51 quid. And on that £51, it'll go above 300 miles, which excellent value for money. It's a money saving. I think it's actually cheaper to drive this than it would be to ride a moped, for instance. And this has got air conditioning. Let's take it for a drive and see what it drives like. And also let's do a 0 to 60 run, because we do that with every video we do. So why not? Now, to start it, you do have to put your foot on brake, ignition on, otherwise it won't start. Put it in drive, and I'll explain the gearbox situation. So I've got it in fully automatic. It's just changed gear at 3000 RPM. It's just changed gear at 4000 RPM. You'll get this in a minute. So driving along, I want to change gear for it because it's revving quite high. 4000 RPM per gear change is quite high. But the interesting bit is when you get to a hill, because it is a manual gearbox with a robot. Like now, I'm on a hill. It sometimes sets off in second gear, which, because it's a manual gearbox and it has got a clutch, it'll end up burning your clutch out, which will cost you money in end. Like I said, steering, it's progressive steering, so when you are at low speeds, it's nice and light. The suspension is quite stiff, but it's not bone breaking when over bumps. Another thing to note though, servicing. Servicing this vehicle, it's not cheap. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not cheap. This is trade price. For 3 spark plugs, it's £62 plus VAT at 20%. For the oil, it's got to have Dexos 2 fully synthetic. Which, when I were ringing round for prices, because I service my own vehicles, I'm a mechanic. I've been for 15 years. When I were ringing around for prices, they wanted silly money for oil. I ended up getting it from Vauxhall, and it was half the price of what my suppliers were quoting me for non-genuine oil. Vauxhall actually supplied me oil, £34 for 5 litres, and that's the Dexos 2 oil, the proper oil for this car, for £34 delivered to my door. Crazy. The gearbox, for instance, because it uses a hydraulic system for gear selection, that's why you'll hear that pump screaming when you unlock the car. When that needs changing, you will have to probably take it to Vauxhall, unless you go to a garage what's got the software to prime the gearbox when you change the fluid. But don't let that put you off, because the massive fuel savings you're going to get, absolutely unreal. Literally, it uses barely anything. It costs barely anything to fill up, and it uses barely anything. Visibility is good all round. You've got very good visibility. Obviously, it's got tinted windows as well in back, or privacy windows. This is actually quite a good spec. It's got like fake leather seats. I'm assuming they're fake. I'd probably say they are fake. It'd be like vinyl, probably. Most definitely. I think the steering wheel's leather, so if you're vegan, I do apologise. The dials are nice. The piano black's nice. And it hasn't actually scratched that. That's the only bit of plastic what hasn't scratched. These doors, they're crappy plastic. Really cheap, crappy plastic. It reminds me of an old Fiat Cinquecento plastics. They must have had some plastic left over. It comes with cruise control. That just works as cruise control does. Stereo, it's acceptable. It's not a good system, but it's not a bad system. It's mediocre. Right, so we're on a 60-mile-an-hour road, back on the 60s, and we will see what this 0 to 60 run's going to be. Now, we're going to do it in fully auto, and we're going to do it in semi-auto, so like manual mode. So this is automatic. Automatic, fully auto. So as you can see, I've put it in manual mode. So you have automatic, which is D, and then you can go in manual and flick up through gears. Obviously, you can't basically you can't rev it to 4K and then dump clutch, because it's a robot and it doesn't understand what we're doing. So let's have a go. 3, 2, 1, go. Quicker in manual mode, definitely quicker. It's not bad for a little 1 litre 75 horsepower car. Not bad at all. So at this time, I needed some stuff from Tesco's. So I thought, right, I'll reset the trip computer and drive 5 miles to Tesco's. And I'm going to drive really steady. I'm not going to bomb about like I usually do. So let's see what miles per gallon we can actually get. I've just arrived at Tesco's, and let's see what miles per gallon we're getting. So that was from Bolsover Morrison's to Tesco's. Moment of truth. 70.5 miles to gallon. I'm telling you, this car is cheaper to run than a moped. Unreal, absolutely unreal. I think this is one of the cheapest cars to run. I'd actually give this car an 8 out of 10. It's a car that you don't worry about financially. It's so cheap to run. It's basically moped motoring, or moped prices, in a car. And you can take your friends with you and be nice and warm, or in summer nice and cold. I think this is the cheapest car to run I've ever used. Anyway, if you're new around here, please like and subscribe.